All right, we have Miriam in Calgary on the line. What's your question, Miriam?
I'd like to ask David get his opinion on Newell Brands. They sent out quite a bit of information before their annual meeting, and I must say I wasn't very impressed. Seemed to be a lot of talk and no solution.
Right.
So could you give me some advice on whether to hold this stock or just sell it and take my loss?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, the stock price isn't cooperating, that's for sure.
They've had a tough time. Miriam, from 2012 through early 2017, did a great job of growing their earnings. This is a company that actually was the best performing stock in the S&P 500 in the 1980s, better than Microsoft, as they acquired brands and assimilated them into the business. They're having difficulty now. Their earnings are expected to be down this year, likely down next year. It's in a sector that is not terribly economically sensitive, more like consumer staples, and so it's sort of not in the sweet spot of the market. There are now activist shareholders involved, and so there's a big shakeup at the business. Again, I'll say the same thing I said earlier. Turnaround situations are very difficult. And we only get bull markets from time to time. And you want to own things that are where there's an appetite in the current market. So I think, and we haven't talked much about this today, that I think the next 9 months are going to be very, very strong in the equity market. We just sat through a bull market correction, and we've got lots of upside. I think that you might want to consider moving on here because it's going to take a lot of time for this turnaround to take place, and I think you miss an opportunity on the other side. So this is one I would suggest you take your lumps on, and it's, again, a reason to use stop losses is when things stop working, they can go down a lot.
Yeah, I pulled up the long-term chart when you were talking about the 80s. The 80s and the 90s were very kind to this name, but of course, that's water under the bridge. We've got Mary in Richmond Hill on the line. What's your question, Mary?
Taking my call. Question is on Franco-Nevada. I want to ask David if he still has keeping it in the company's portfolio. Also, a street consensus, please, because the stock, since they reported, is been very weak. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Mary.
So, Mary, I think really what's going on here is this is more of a sector situation. You know, the golds have repeatedly sort of tried to get going and have failed. I think that it's very possible you could see a lift in the sector in the remainder of the year, especially given, the Fed saying they're willing to see inflation rates go above 2% for some period of time. I think that probably is supportive of precious metals. Franco-Nevada is a way to participate in precious metals without as much risk as some of the others because they are a royalty-based company. So, it's trading above the 150-day moving average. I always use that as a stop loss. That's sitting at about $85, $5 lower than where we are here. And realistically, I do think that there's a good chance that these commodities perform pretty well for the rest of the year. So I would stay there for now. We have a small position in the firm. We don't have a ton of precious metals, but we do have a small position. And if I had to pick one with relatively good risk reward, I would say that Franco-Nevada would fit.
All right, Mary, the street says 8 buys, 7 holds, and 1 sell with a 12-month target price of $109 and change. That would be a 20% jump from where we are right now. We have Ross in Stouffville, Ontario on the line. What's your question, Ross?
Analysis of Alcoa, and would you rate it as a buy, hold, or sell? Thanks.
Okay.
And could we have the street consensus?
Sure thing, Ross.
So, Ross, on Alcoa, I think that the metals do look interesting here as a group. There may be a couple of names I would look at before in Alcoa. The metals have pulled back a little bit in the last few weeks as they've been correcting. I would rate it a hold. I wouldn't be a seller here. If I had to pick a new name, I might look at something a little bit different. But I would say Alcoa probably is okay as a hold.
All right, the street, Ross on Alcoa, 9 buys, 6 holds, 0 sells with a 12-month target price of $64 and change. That would be a 32% jump from where we closed today. We're going to be back with David Burrows. He's President and Chief Investment Strategist at Barometer Capital Management. He wants to answer your questions about North American large caps. So give us a call, toll free, 1-855-326-6266. And if you're listening to us on the iHeartRadio Canada app or AM 1410 in Vancouver, we want to hear from you too. Because you can't see the TV, here's that number again, 1-855-326-6266.